Happy Sunday, everyone. I wanted to hop in here very quick. This is going to be like the fastest LinkedIn Live that I've ever done. I really love these LinkedIn Lives because I get to really share so much with you all. And if you've been following me for a while, I really love, building this relationship with you. So today, what I want to talk about is the importance of having a fulfilling career on your personal life. If you are listening and tuning in, I'd love if you slide into the comments. Let me know where you're tuning from. It always makes me happy to know who's watching and who's listening. And I love also learning what countries people are tuning from. So, quick story that I wanted to share since I only have like 10 minutes before I go. The reason I got into career coaching truly is because I recognize the impact of having a fulfilling career on my own personal life. I did not have a very fulfilling career for so many years. I was sort of like just letting organizations drive my career for me. I was taking whatever was coming to me. But I knew deep inside that I had big dreams. I wanted to do work that I love. I wanted to create a bigger impact. But I felt like I didn't have options. And so I will say, in maybe the first 5 years of my career, I was working in management consulting. It was great experience. I was on multi-million dollar programs. I was working in product. I was working with large financial institutions. I was working on significant initiatives. But I felt empty because the activities that I was doing, they weren't really things that I enjoyed. And so because that was going on, because I was so unhappy, it it impacted my personal relationships. So at the time, I was in a relationship with someone, and because of all of the travel, it just put a lot of strain in my relationship. I was living out of a suitcase. I was barely home, and that just led us to break up because of that. Um, and when I was not happy in my career, I felt like I had a void inside me. And because I had that void, I just was making so many poor decisions. I was getting into relationships that weren't right for me because I was just constantly looking for distraction because I was simply not happy. The thing is, when you're not happy in your career, you're also not happy in your life. Um, that's the reality because your career is such an important part of who you are. It's part of your identity. And for me, as a high achiever, as someone who gets a lot of joy from building things, from creating things, to me, like some of my intrinsic motivators, I'll tell you guys, is I love power. No wonder I'm an entrepreneur. This is why I didn't last in corporate. Power is so important to me. And when I say power, I mean like I want to be making the decisions. I want to be driving things. I want to lead. And so when I was in organizations where I felt powerless, where I felt like I didn't have that decision making power, where I had to go through multiple chains of command in order to just be able to do something, that frustrated me. And especially when the organization, I could see they were making poor decisions in terms of the direction of the product or how they were treating customers. And I was told that I had to do it anyway. I was just like, it felt like I had to be someone else. And so when I carried all of that frustration, I would just make poor decisions in my personal life, whether it was not taking care of myself. And I mean, there was a point in time where I was constantly shopping. I was spending so much money on clothing. I just needed that release because I was so frustrated in my career. So, long story short, when I decided to quit over text in 2018, It was a buildup. It was a buildup of me being unhappy for a long time. And I didn't know what else to do. I hired a career coach. She helped me understand myself better. I was feeling like I was some crazy and person who's out of control. And the reality was, I just didn't understand myself. I needed someone to remind me of my strength of being so resourceful, my strength of building things from scratch, my strength of leading. I didn't know all of these things about myself, and it just felt so good to have someone on the outside help me recognize it. And the funny thing is, when I worked with my career coach, we talked about all of the different avenues that would make me happy. One of them was actually training. She said that I see you as a trainer. But at one point, that was around 2020, at the time I was in a relationship and my boyfriend had left me and I had a high fever. And I remember, I remember just talking to my career coach. And I realized after thinking about it that what I wanted to do is help people build their career. And why? Because I feel like when you're not happy in your career, you feel so alone, you feel so lonely. And to me, as someone who immigrated at the age of 18 and went to a new country, I always felt like my saving grace was my education and my career. Because when you don't have a career, when you're not financially stable, you can't provide for yourself. You don't have that freedom. And I believe that I've been able to figure it out. Case in point, came at 18, built a six-figure, career, reached $200,000 mark. And I felt that I could just teach people how to do this. And the funny thing is that I got good at it after working with so many clients, 1,000, helping, one person after the other. Some of my clients have landed roles that I have never landed. They reached levels that I've never reached, VP and C level. And so this is why I do what I do. And what I'll tell you guys is that I have witnessed my clients' lives change when they up leveled their career. One of my clients was going through anxiety, as an example. She was anxious and she's a very creative person. She is a musician, but she's also like a product manager. And at one point, she was very unhappy at her job. And once we helped her land somewhere else, it was incredible. I could see her whole life changing. All of a sudden, she is pursuing her hobbies. She is happy in her relationship. She is, she has all these concerts going on outside of work. Another client of mine, he was a truck driver. He was not happy in his neighborhood. And after I worked with him, he moved to Portugal from the US. And he has all of these beautiful pictures of him. I'm so jealous, like drinking coffee, at these beautiful coffee shops. He lost so much weight. He's so much happier. Another client of mine came to Canada. His wife was pregnant. He was stressed out. He just wasn't sure how he was going to provide, for his daughter. And I helped him land, a six-figure role. And now he has two daughters. They're all grown. And it just makes me so proud. So the thing I wanted to tell you all is that I know that sometimes you feel like you don't want to take a risk because if you put in the work, you might not, land the role that you want. Maybe you feel like you've invested so much in the place that you're in. But I wanted to remind you, it's almost like being in a marriage or any relationship. If you're not happy and you just keep pretending that you are, it's just going to create a lot of resentment. And why should someone else make a higher salary than you and be at a company that respects them. Why them and not you? You deserve that as well. So, something to think about, okay? Something to think about. The reason I share my story all the time and I'm very vulnerable is because I get it. I get all your fears. Sometimes when we have bad experiences in the past, we have some form of PTSD. Whenever something reminds us of that, we go back to the evidence or the history to help us predict what's going to happen in the future. But sometimes what happened in the past doesn't necessarily tell you what's going to happen in the future. Because when you change your behavior, when you do things the right way, you can land a better role. You can be in an organization without a toxic boss. You just need a different approach. And this is where I come in. So if you are in a situation where you're unhappy and you want to get out, okay, please don't feel that you are alone. You can book a career diagnosis with me. We can chat. I can tell you if your situation is solvable or not. Sometimes people come to me and I tell them, you know what, this is like the best that it can be, just based on my experience of working with 1,000 people. But if you don't reach out, if you don't ask, if you don't try to figure out what's possible for you, then nothing changes. There's no risk in seeing what's out there. So I hope that this has been valuable for you. Shortest live in the history of my LinkedIn. I still wanted to pop in. Um, I wish I could stay more. This weekend has been very exhausting. I also had a little bit of migraine. But I still wanted to say hi to you all. And hey, it would mean a lot to me if you just give this LinkedIn Live a like so that I know that people have watched it. And yeah, don't be shy. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning from. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.